Good afternoon and welcome to OCNJ Daily. I'd like to introduce our guest this afternoon, Freeholder Director Jerry Thornton and Freeholder Marie Hayes. I'd like to thank you both for coming in and joining us today and sharing your thoughts about serving the community. I guess the first thing that really amazes me about the two of you is that I don't know how you do it. I mean, this is billed as a part-time job. But yet, when I'm in Ocean City, I see you. When I'm in Seattle, I see you. When I'm down county, I see you. I just saw you at the Walk for the Wounded. I see you at the various veterans events, the charity events around the county. Yet you still have time. You still have time to be a legislator and get your jobs done. And I just, how do you do it and still manage to have a family life?
Well, your family does suffer a little bit, but you have to have a very understanding family. Fortunately for me, I do have an understanding wife, because yes, you do spend a lot of time. There's no doubt about it. It's a 5-6 day a week job. Different hours of the nights. I've gotten calls at 3 o'clock in the morning if we have a hurricane or some tragedy in the county of Cape May. I'm there sometimes 2 days or 3 days in the bunker. And so you have to be prepared. And my philosophy has always been, if people elect you, they want to see you. We have an obligation, I have an obligation to show up for veterans, senior citizens, and everybody else, because they elect me.
Terrific. But Marie, how do you manage it?
It's tough. I mean, but the director told me when I got the position that he felt that when someone wanted to have you at an event, that you should be there. And it's exactly what he said. People want to see you. They want to talk to you. They want to tell you what's on their minds. And, it's a juggling act. But, in my career before, it was a juggling act. So I learned a long time ago how to juggle things. And your family does take the second seat. And we're both just very lucky that we have families that understand that, because we are. I can tell you that Jerry and I are out 4 to 5 times a week, and at least once on the weekend, maybe 2 or 3 events.
Well, I think it's noticed in the community. But speaking specifically with you, Jerry, can you let the audience know what are your responsibilities as freeholder? I mean, what are you involved in overseeing?
Well, for many years I had Health and Human Services, and I really love those departments because they were strictly people departments. But now as director, you have administration, you have revenue and finance, which is important. You have county council, and those mostly administrative things. But one of the biggest departments I have is emergency management, because the director has the authority of the board during a storm to make those decisions that are necessary. Also, you have the authority to declare an emergency for the county, and that's extremely important. So, but yeah, I have mostly administration and revenue departments now.
It's impressive. I imagine this upcoming storm's probably keeping you on your toes, and we had a near miss that we luckily got away with. But
well, I keep saying the same thing over and over again, is that sooner or later Cape May County is going to get hit. I thought that we were very close during Hurricane Irene, and then of course Sandy, because that was a forecast. Both storms were forecast to hit us head on, and they didn't. If it wasn't for that storm moving 30 miles north, we would have actually been devastated here in Cape May County. And here we are sitting here in Seattle, who did get a lot of damage and a lot of water with both of those storms. So, and northern part of the county had some difficulty, but overall, we did really well in this county. But I just urge everybody, if we decide that it's time to evacuate, I urge you, because we use the best science and technology available to make that decision.
Well, thank you, and it's extremely important, obviously. Tell me, obviously I mentioned I see out a lot of the veteran events, and I mean, you are a veteran of the Air Force. And,
absolutely.
And what does that, help you see? What do you bring to the party, if you will, when it comes to veterans issues and senior issues that you seem so active in?
with me, with the veterans, it's just a matter of camaraderie. Anybody that honorably served this country has that sense of camaraderie, and you associate with all those veterans. And I think it's very important that they are continually recognized for their service to this nation, and I will do that over and over again. I started out by building the Cape May County Veterans Cemetery, the first county veterans cemetery in the state of New Jersey, right here in Cape May County was my project. And anything I can do for veterans, I do. We were the first county in the state in 1946 to have a Veterans Bureau, which most people don't know.
Wow.
And we still have a Veterans Bureau now. So
That's terrific. One of the other things that I think of when I think of you is your reputation for trying to keep taxes in check. Cape May County has one of the lowest tax rates in the state of New Jersey. You know, I see you working on projects, the 911 dispatch center, for example. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what benefit that brings the taxpayer and the folks of Cape May County?
Well, it was a significant benefit, and centralized communications is very significant for the county of Cape May because it's going to provide more accurate and faster response times eventually. So when we have centralized 911 communications. Now what we did, we joined with Lower Township because Lower Township was going to build a new public safety building. We knew that we had to build or find another place for emergency management. So when we looked at the public safety building down at the airport, which is one of the highest places in the county, so it's protected during a hurricane or a storm. And it was almost $5 to $6 million for the public safety building in Lower Township. It was going to cost the county about $5 or $6 million for a new emergency management center. So I had the staff evaluate and had some architects and engineers look at it, and they said it was really structurally safe. So we made an agreement with Lower Township that they would share half the building, we would share the other half. And because of that, the total cost is going to be between $5 and $6 million. So we probably saved on average of about $2.5 to $3 million apiece, both Lower Township and the County of Cape May.
Fantastic, wonderful. The other big project that I think is in the spotlight these days is the project of the new jail. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you feel strongly about that investment?
Well, let me start out with this statement. Nobody wants to build a new jail. Absolutely. And we went back and forth. But when I first became director, I was told, and I saw the documentation, that since 2005, the federal and the state government said we were not in compliance, and they would keep giving us extensions on not shutting us down or reducing our prisoner population down to 188, which the facility was built for. So what we had to do was address it. Otherwise, we were vulnerable because if they shut us down, and we have to move on average 250 prisoners at $100 a day, that's $25,000 a day, which is more than $9 million a year that the taxpayers would have to absorb. Plus, it wouldn't reduce the staff that much because you have to have the same corrections officers and the sheriff's officers to move the prisoners back and forth to go to court, and you also have to have a holding area. So, the jail is just, again, almost 40 years old, and it had to be replaced. There wasn't much we could do there. The working conditions in the jail are not good. And to be out of compliance with the federal and state law, and always be under threat that they're going to close you down or reduce your numbers back to 188, even if we had to move 80 prisoners a day, that's close to $3 million a year. And there again, so the only decision which was the right decision was for the Board of Freeholders to build a new jail. And I will say this honestly, we're not elected to make those nicey, easy decisions. People elect us to make the tough decisions. We knew when we made the decision to build that jail that we were going to get political criticism. We knew that. When the bids first came in, the bids came in at $44 million. I rejected all those bids and said, no way. So we went back and we looked at it and we cut about $7 million off that. We cut the second floor off. We cut 62 cells off. And so now the capacity of the jail will be a little over 300. So it was a tough decision. But in the long run, it's the right decision for the taxpayers. And that's why they elect me, to make those kind of decisions. It's nice to say yes to everybody, when you're an elected official. They expect you to say yes, and they say, and you know, this is what I want, give it to me. But at some time, we have to make those decisions. Ocean County had a very similar situation. We went up there and visited their new facility for the same reasons.
Very good. Well, I'm sure the taxpayers appreciate that. Another big topic that's in the news that's really problematic through the whole country, but particularly Cape May County, is full-time employment. And it always amazes me, politicians' inability to help create jobs. You've worked on that, and I find that particularly impressive. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, what happened when I first took over as director, I've known for many, many years that the county was not addressing economic development. So when Will Morey came on board, I said, Will, look, you're going to have economic development as a department, and I'm going to appropriate the necessary funds in order to start that. Initially, we appropriated $100,000 for economic development. Now we have $150,000 for economic development. And with that, we have supported the aquaculture with the oyster industry, which is growing. We have the wineries. We have 6 wineries in the county. We have breweries. We have distilleries in the county, and we've supported all those. I can tell you, in the future, those industries are going to be very, very prominent in the county of Cape May. The wineries, I spent 36 years in the wholesale wine business, so I'm very familiar with the wineries. I can tell you in 20 years from now, the wineries in Cape May County, and then the wine that's produced in Cape May County, is because it's a very good product, is going to be significant to the jobs. In fact, we met with the Lieutenant Governor and all the distillery and winery and brewery people, and one of their complaints was they couldn't find enough employees for the wineries when they needed them. So that's what we want to do. And also the drones. The drones at the airport, that's a multi-billion-dollar business throughout the world. We've been working on that. That's also part of that $150,000 for economic development. That's why we increased it another $50,000 was for the drones. And we've had significant meetings down there. We have one coming up this Friday. We've had people down when we did some testing with those companies from all over the nation and from the UN. The United Nations was down here with us just a month or so ago. So it's really significant. If we get 1 or 2 of those manufacturers here in the Cape May County Airport, or even as a testing facility, I can tell you it will be significant for Cape May County because they're very high-paying technical jobs.
Well, I see what I refer to as all the public departments. I also oversee transportation in Cape May County and the public information and tourism. So anything that falls within that, which means fare free transportation, the library system, the park and zoo, the surrogate's office, the clerk's office, the adjuster's office, anything that is a public office, that's what I oversee. And incorporating in that is being a liaison on many commissions that fall within that realm, and some of them are cultural and heritage, the Park and Zoo Commission. So I work as a liaison between the commissions and our government.
Well, that's a lot to cover at once. As you may have noticed, one of the areas that excited me most, though, is the dredging.
One of the things that when I first came into office, I wanted to know what the mayors out there, what is it that I can do in what I do to help you? And I got them together as a group, and one of the major themes that rang through just about every municipality was dredging. And the problems they were having with that, and the regulation, and the money. I mean, it's massive amounts of money. So what I did is I began to put together a group, and we eventually went up to Commissioner Martin of the DEP, and we sat down with him, and we explained our problems, and we wanted his advice. What can we do to work with you, not against you? You have what you have to do. And what came out of that was a working group, and that was 3 years ago. And since that time, we meet every month. And that incorporates environmental engineers, people from the DEP, from the Army Corps of Engineers, and we just sit and we look at, the regulations and how people, boots out in the ground, let us tell you what the problems are. And what has come from that is there seems to be a streamlining. Senator Whalen did hear our cry, and he has put in legislation that will directly affect marinas where marinas have dredged before. They don't have to go through that complete process again.
Wow.
Because, yeah, I mean, that's big. Also, I'm sure you know that we have had the winter flounder ban lifted. That was a collaboration of a lot of people that started a long time ago, and us as the working group just, that helped out. So, so there's, we focus on that because I think just the majority of communities in Cape May County are affected by that. And what people have to realize is that the boating industry is a huge industry that brings in money to Cape May County. And they shouldn't be ignored. And if their boats, if people can't get out of their slips, they're not going to rent them.
But I don't think many people know about your experience in the marina industry. Do you want to share that a little bit?
Sure. I was, my husband and I owned a small boat marina. When it started out, it was just a mom and pop place. And, we had the rose-colored glasses, and we went in there, and it's a tough business. It's a very tough business. And we were not prepared for the regulations and the restrictions. And it makes it very tough for people to be in business. Very tough.
So you've seen both sides of it.
I have.
And
I
that's,
have. And I think one of the points I want to make too, Mike, is that the people in the industry, the boating industry, they don't want to hurt the environment, because if they hurt the environment, their industry is going to be hurt. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a lot of middle ground of people who really want to make sure that nothing's hurt, and the boating industry that's on the same plane.
Understood. Now, I'll circle back to your career in law enforcement. 29 years, correct me, I don't recall your title at the time, but head of the detectives, and you had a great deal of focus on the women's issues and children's crimes and that sort of thing. One of the areas that you've done a lot of work was with the Women's Commission.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit and maybe what you bring to that, the unique perspective that you bring to that from your career?
Well, I think because of my career, the majority of my career was investigating crimes against women and children. It was child abuse and sexual assault. That we have a Women's Commission in Cape May County. Many counties and across the state, they have been abolished. But our Women's Commission is still in existence. And I'm going to throw it out here right now. The man sitting right here next to me is the man who originated it. He was asked about a Women's Commission, and it was shortly thereafter that he created one. When I got into the office, I saw that I wasn't pleased with what was happening, and I think a lot of the members weren't either. And we sat down and we talked, and we took it a different direction. One of the things that we wanted to do was focus on women being leaders. We wanted to show that women are wonderful leaders. So one of the first things we did is we had a symposium, and we asked the Lieutenant Governor to come down and speak. And the proceeds of that went towards a project called STEM, which is a project where girls get to go to camps in local colleges, and they learn about science, technology, engineering, and math, because women are really low represented in those areas. So we gave them money to give out scholarships to girls that maybe couldn't afford it. So that's one of the things that the Women's Commission is doing. But there's a lot more on the horizon for that. It's going to be fun.
Well, having a young daughter in school, I thank you for that and appreciate that, because I think it's a wonderful effort.
Well, your daughter did tell me she was going to be the first female president. She did tell me that.
I look forward to it. Can you talk about, now you mentioned the zoo, you mentioned tourism. I don't know what you want to attack first, but can you give us some insight on what you do there?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go to our park and zoo, okay? Because I'm telling you, I can't go anywhere in New Jersey that people don't talk to me about our free park and zoo. Yeah. And we have worked very hard. The exhibits, there's a lot more exhibits. We now have in the park and zoo a new tree-to-tree adventure, which is basically an obstacle course in the trees. And it is, without a doubt, phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal.
I haven't done it yet, but I can't
Oh,
wait.
you have to come, you have to see it. It's great. And I got to tell you that people, that's just another thing that was added to the park and zoo. And I have to tell you that we are putting a tremendous amount of time and effort into our educational department at the park and zoo. That is growing by leaps and bounds. There are so many people that want to know about our park and zoo, and they want to know about the animals. I mean, everything is bursting at the park and zoo. So it's great. It's great.
So tourism, I
Ah.
mean, Cape May County, what greater engine do we have?
That is it. That is the number one in our county. But let me tell you something, that didn't happen by accident. We have a tourism department that is top-notch, second to none. And one of the examples that I will give is that a long, long time ago, they saw what they felt was a great market in Montreal, and they started to market up there. And what became of that was Montreal's in love with Cape May County. They absolutely love Cape May County. So when I came on as a freeholder and we sat down and we talked, my tourism director, Diane Whalen, said, I really want to reach out to Quebec. I want to start another market now. So what we did is we planned a trip to Quebec with all their tourism people to market our county. And it's paying in leaps and bounds.
Today, what makes you the right candidate for this seat on the Freeholder Board now, in this election?
Well, there's two things I think that are very important. Number one is my past experience in the county of Cape May and in county government, and doing those things that I thought were necessary at the time to make the quality of life in the county of Cape May better for our veterans, senior citizens. But also, I think the most important thing is the future. I'm not going to sit here and just talk about the past, because I want to talk about the future and what we're going to do about the future. I want to talk about economic development, producing more jobs for the county, stability, and making sure that we have a good tax rate. When I say to the department heads and the freeholders and everything, I put my fingers up. 2%. Don't walk in and send a budget across my desk. It's more than 2%. And the unions know that. Everybody knows that. And our unions have been very cooperative. They really have, and worked very, very well with us to stay within that 2% margin. So I think it's significant. So I just don't want to sit here and talk about my past. I want to talk about what we're doing, not only myself, but also my colleagues in the Board of Freeholders, to make a much better standard of living in the county of Cape May. And we are working on that. We are trying to accomplish that.
I absolutely love Cape May County, and it is, without a doubt, the best county in the state. And I can tell you that Jerry Thornton and I go up to our NJAC meetings, which is the collaboration of all the counties, and we talk about Cape May County, and they know Cape May County, and they know that we are not going to be silent on the issues that we feel very strongly about. And I feel that with our Freeholder Board, we have such a strong force. And what I love about my Freeholder Board is that everybody brings something different to the table. We all have expertise in different areas, and we respect each other. We talk amongst, things. We don't argue. We sit and we just problem solve is what we do. We absolutely problem solve. And I think one of the things that the director said is that jail. Nobody was in favor of that jail. When it came down to looking at what we needed to do, we had to make a decision. And I just want to make sure that Cape May County, with us here, they're represented, and people hear about Cape May County, and we will take care of Cape May County, because every freeholder on that board feels that it is the best county in the state. It is.
Well, I thank you both for spending the time with me today, spending the time with our audience. The audience, November 8th, I hope you get out there and hit the voting booths and vote your conscience. And thank you so much again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
It's been a pleasure
Really
being with you
appreciate it.
today.
Yes,
Thank you
very
much.
nice. Thank you.